Chip, I want to give you a shout out. That was one heck of a reading that you tried to stumble through. Paul is not known for his concision or his clarity. In other words, he talks a lot and it's hard to know what he's saying. Having been studying Greek sort of by proxy with Gwen, I realized how difficult it is to even begin to understand how to navigate that language. So the translation, even the simplest, is still very hard to follow. However, what he said basically was, it's really amazing. I have been called by God, though I was not necessarily the best of all people for this job, to be the one who helps bring the people outside into the inside. We have this incredible journey with the people of Israel, and Jesus is bringing the Gentiles into conversation with the Jewish people and the God of covenant of Israel. And then, of course, as we always like to joke about, the wise men. I am convinced that that is merely an English translation sterilizing the reality of what these men were. They were Persian, likely Zoroastrian astrologers. They were pagans. They were not monotheists necessarily. If they were, it was the dualistic notion within Zoroastrianism. Definitely not Jews, and definitely not what most people in Christendom would consider proper Christians. And yet, these men, these sages that offer Christ these royal gifts, fulfilling Isaiah, saying they will come with gold and frankincense, gold signifying kings, frankincense being the stuff used in services by the priests. And then added in myrrh, which is an embalming fluid used for embalming bodies after they die, signifying the sacrificial death that Christ would have. The more I learn about the New Testament, the more I realize that incredible layers of meaning give it a lot deeper richness than taking it merely at face value. But what's neat is in the story, everything about it is God is extending God's family. God is offering God's self beyond what we thought was there before. So if we pay attention, there's a lot to discover. So first of all, good news, everyone. The Messiah has been born. This is amazing. The one who has been prophesied and hoped for centuries has come. Not only God's own people, but the outsiders, the people from across the land, watched for this moment, found it, and honored it. If we pay attention, we will see where God's good news is happening. Raise your hand if you have a tendency to focus on the negative things in life more than the positive. I know I do. Well, that's the cool thing about this day. It's reminding us, reminding me, because Lord knows, I'm really bad at focusing on the positive a lot of times myself. The essence of our tradition is good news for all people. We do well to pay attention to where God's good news is happening. Also, we do well to pay attention to where people are looking for what we already have, wanting to be part of our community, literally thirsting and hungry for the kind of love we celebrate, looking for good news in a world that is full of bad news. And let's face it, I think a lot of those who are involved in journalism are addicted to stirring up bad news. It is our job to proclaim good news in the world. What's good in your life? What's good about our faith? What's good about our community? And the 70s song, tell me something good. So that's what's so neat about today. God is saying, pay attention, y'all. I'm bringing people in that you never would have thought would come in. Instead of holding close to our chest the little that we have, God is asking us to expand that beyond our borders, beyond our norms, beyond our assumptions, beyond our comfort zones. But again, if there's good news to be found, we do well to seek it out. And I guarantee you, there's some really good news coming up today, and coming up certainly at our annual meeting, and looking at the possibilities that we have ahead of us. So I love the auspicity, big word for the day, of the fact that our first Sunday back together, whether in person or online, is a day of celebrating good news, good beginnings. Yeah. And let's take this beginning, this moment of focusing on the good news of God, extending God's family and God's love, inviting us to do the same, to pay attention to these things, to focus on these things, to evangelize, which is what that word means. I know you've heard me say it, but I'll say it again. To good news the world. But it also means that unless we make sure that we are listening for the Spirit blowing towards good news, we will never experience it. If we do not trust the abundance of God, we will not experience it. So, take a deep breath. And remember that Bethlehem was not a really big place. Nazareth was definitely not a big place. And out of it came the love that we share today. So remember the good things. And may we share that goodness with